Chris, I'm so glad you said that, because when you get an RV, you want to know how to operate it. You want to know all the things. I asked Chris like 5 questions as soon as I got here with mine. I want to know about water levels and how much water, when I'm actually going from Nashville to South Bend, for instance, how much water do I want to have it in there?
That's right.
You don't want to keep it full because that'll cut down on your gas mileage, but you want enough to be able to
function and enjoy.
Use your sink, and maybe if you want to stop over and take a shower and freshen up. And he told me so many things. And that's what our next segment is going to be all about. It's all about maintaining your RV, knowing the ins and outs of what you do, and when you should refill your propane and all that good stuff.
And what's so great is we have all the questions, we have experts, and we have specialists to answer all those questions for you. So there is no question too small or too big, and you can call us at 866-853-3510. You don't have time to call? Text us. Text URVS to 46642, and we have so many people ready to answer. This interactive segment has been so great that we have the Q&A so we can sit and learn. I think that's what's been great as well.
I've noticed a lot of people online. I've got Kurt out there, and Tammy, and Michelle, and Michael had a great question yesterday. And we love to sit with our specialists that are in the call center, and we watch as your questions come through, and they get excited. Oh, that's a great question. You know what? I never really thought about that, especially for the first-time RVers. And we know there are a lot of you out there because RVing is taking off. But let's talk about maintaining them right now. You ready to learn a little bit more?
I can't wait. And I think this is going to be really informative for everybody. So stay tuned, pay attention, because this is such good information.
Yeah, we've got the A-team ready to go to take your questions. Pay close attention, because I know I will for this particular segment. Chris, Ian, take it away, our friends.
Sean and Trish, thank you so much. Yes, we are excited because here at the Ultimate RV Show, you've had a chance to view some awesome RVs, get yours lined up. If you're first timing or if you've been doing it for a while, you got to say, how do I maintain this new beautiful unit?
Yep.
So Big Dog, we are joined by one of the pros that you can find at one of our over 180 Camping World and Gander locations. I brought my buddy Matt Rameur from the Coldwater, Michigan location.
That's
Matt, welcome, buddy.
Us, man.
Thanks,
hey, man,
I appreciate it.
Yeah, good for seeing you. Thanks for coming. So this session is going to be all about maintaining my RV, some tips from the pros, if you will.
Absolutely.
And if you don't mind, tell us a little bit about, what you do for us in Coldwater.
Well, I'm the service director for our service department, obviously. We try to maintain and keep your investment as good as it can go, so you have your trips and have the best experience you can.
Okay. And I'll tell you, we have, if you've never got a chance to work with our service folks, let me go ahead and preface this whole segment real quick. We got some of the best people in the world working for us at Camping World. And if you communicate and you manage your expectations when it comes to not only maintaining but servicing your RV, the process is so much easier, so much simpler.
Absolutely.
Communicate, manage your expectations.
Yep.
Bam. Yep. Things go in so much easier. So, Matt, right off the bat, we got some great questions coming in, which, by the way, if you have them, just post them social media or in the chat feed. What are some maintenance tips that I can do on my own? Do you have any?
The biggest thing I would say is know, we talk about a lot of features when the sales and the team's going and you guys are presenting these new units. Service side, I like to say, let's talk about the characteristics, knowing your trailer. Keep your slides, all your pliables, your awnings, things like that. Lubricate it so all your pivot points are all set.
Yep.
So at home, know your characteristics of the trailer. When you get into the scenario of your slide outs, we want to make sure those are all conditioned. Keep maintain, with as far as your maintenance schedule, knowing the roof times, your appliances, your chassis, simple things like your locks, keeping lubricated, your friction hinges on your doors, as far as that, and any of the little things that you can do to keep everything moving as smooth as possible.
And like the bulb seals on the slides and...
Absolutely.
Now, Ian, we've heard a bunch of people, I think some of the techs have told us, like with the Dexter Easy Lube axles, you want to lube those like every...
Well, you got to be kind of careful with those, and I'll let Matt speak to this as well, but what we hear, and I'm sure you can attest to this, the Easy Lube, is that people tend to over-grease them.
Absolutely.
Right, and then they ended up pushing the bearing out and having all sorts of problems, and so it takes what should be an easier process and actually makes it more difficult.
Yeah. More isn't always better, the thing is, and people love their trailer, and that's a great thing about it is know your trailer, play with it, be ready for your camping trip, but sometimes know a little bit of, that median of where you got to be on the
Right.
factor.
Yeah.
And of
Right.
course, you can always call your service department.
Right, and,
Yes.
and that's the biggest thing. I mean, you can get tips and tricks all days, but at the end of the day, there's a reason why we have such great people working in our maintenance departments, our service departments, is because they're there to help, so that you don't do anything you're not supposed to do.
That's true.
Well, and for me, right, Chris, like I think about it, and it's like anything else in life, right? It's how comfortable you are doing it, how knowledgeable you are at it, as well as the time consumed, right? So,
Absolutely.
can I do a bearing repack? Probably. Do I want to have to jack it up and worry about it dropping on me and make sure that I do it right and know that if I don't, my wheel's gonna fly off and cause an accident? No.
Right.
What is it we always say? Look at these hands.
Yeah, these are soft hands.
These are soft hands. So, all right. So, Matt, here's a great one that comes up a lot, and I'm actually glad you're here. Can I winterize my RV on my own, or do I need to take it to a dealership?
I would say to the question point is yes, you can do it at home. Obviously, if you have any questions, and depending on your floor layout, the setup, the features you have, sometimes it's easier and more efficient to bring it to your service center because you have residential fridges, you
Yes.
have on-demand water heaters, you
Yep.
have certain areas that you've got. So a brand new unit, maybe you only used it once or twice, maybe you were fortunate enough to get out there a lot, and there are other points that you should probably address with a service center.
Right.
You have a small, light featured unit. Sometimes it's easier to get some RV antifreeze in there, but at the same point in time, to miss something, to try to save a few dollars and not to protect your investment, sometimes those can be a little catastrophic at
Yeah.
times.
Yes.
You leave on vacation your next time and you winterize it just a little bit wrong, you get ready for springtime, that could start the whole trip off a
Right.
little bit.
Or you forget one knob somewhere,
Absolutely.
and you go to de-winterize, and all of a
Yep.
sudden your floor's pink. That's a
That's
beautiful thing. When is a good time to winterize my RV?
The biggest thing I tell people is, and obviously your climate's going to be a big thing, is if you're either done at the end of the season and it's Labor Day and that's when you pack it up, go ahead and winterize it. Get your tanks flushed out, get everything cleaned up, clean out all your refrigerators, get them propped open. Maybe you might open it up again, and use it in an impromptu trip, so to speak.
Right.
But if you're done for that season, get it washed up, get it ready to go so you don't forget about it come November and all of a sudden the snow flies. Weather, you never know when it comes and hits you, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we get ice in April sometimes.
That's right.
Yes,
Yeah.
isn't that the truth?
Yeah.
Wow, we got a lot of great questions coming in. Motorhomes. Here we go. How often should I change the oil in my motorhome?
Well, that is going to be the chassis maintenance schedule for, these are built on the platforms from Mercedes and Ford and whatever it is.
Right.
And then we build the manufacturers build the coaches on them. So, and with today's technology of oils and lubricants, 3,000 miles, 5,000 miles, that's going to be your average oil change.
Yep.
But you run a synthetic and you're in a traffic area where you're a stop and go and you're in a high temperature area, you might want to do that a little bit more often. You're in mountain terrains and you have a little more stress on that big monster going through these mountains, you might want to do that more often. Really, reality-wise, though, I would just similar to your automobile.
Right.
Yep.
Ian, you're much more knowledgeable on the roofs, plus I don't like heights. So talk a little bit about roofs.
Yeah, so that's one of those things, again, right, where we talk about things that you can do on your own, right? You absolutely can get up there and 'cause you should have maintenance on your roof. You're talking about a rubber roof. You want to get up there, make sure you're protecting it from UV as well as keeping it clean, making sure you get sap and everything else off. But again, Chris, that's one of those things where for me, I'm bringing it in, right? I don't know if anyone knows this, but across the country, all 180 plus Camping World locations, we do free roof inspections. So. If you don't want to get up 13 foot on your fifth wheel, I don't blame you one bit. I don't want to get up there either, but we have people that will. So they'll get up there, make sure everything is on the up and up. If there needs to be any touch-up work for any of the seals or anything, can absolutely do that. And, we will clean the roof. And I've seen it where people, they put the chemical and everything on there, and, they go to town and they don't cover the sides of their trailer, and all of a sudden, the sides are just a hot mess, right? It's small things like that we'll make sure it's taken care of, keeping you safe. So, and Matt, do you?
Well, on that roof point, a lot of people forget about it. Sight,
Yeah.
out of sight, out of
Out of
mind.
sight, yep.
It's important to look at that every 6 months. I mean, obviously if you're in a treat area, you're out in the desert, different issues or conditions are gonna dictate some of that frequency. But at least twice a year, take a look at those seal voids. Make sure your AC didn't vibrate, a little bit looser hardware. These are machines that flex and move going down the road, and that's the maintenance side of it. And fortunately we have a great team across the country. Know your facility, and that's the biggest thing I can say too is if you can be on your trip, man, I'm not sure. I thought I heard something on my roof. 180 different locations in this Gander RV and Camping with a Family. We're there for you.
Yeah, you're like we always like to see, you're never too far down the road from one of our network or family dealers at Camping World and Gander. I mean, I'll always pop in.
Few more months, Chris, and I'm pretty sure we'll be in all 48 states.
Yeah. Was it contiguous United States?
You got it.
Did I say that right? Yeah, quarter word.
And another thing on the roofs, the slide outs I like to point out to, either veterans or new users is slide toppers on there, keep that debris off, keep those swipe seals, bulb seals clean. The biggest thing is a lot of people get excited, they're under their chip, whether they're tired, all of a sudden they close up their slide and there's a stick in there, So take a moment to stick your head up there before you close up, things like that too, because it's amazing what a little bit of can do to that membrane.
Would you say the same thing for the undercarriage?
Absolutely. Anytime you're, these things go down terrain, if you're boondocking, you never know what kind of terrain you're on. Some of these closed underbellies, they're there for a reason to help protect some things, and you want to keep that intact. Things will shake loose, screws will come loose, and things like that, but that's what we're there for.
And critters will get in.
And
critters will get in.
Well, Matt, one of the things that I kind of want to ask a question of, and I know Chris said a little bit earlier, right, but we talk about communication and setting expectations. I find often that, when customers come in for service, not just at Camping World, but, no matter where they go for service, everyone's so used to an automobile, right, going in for service, and, it's a quick, one day in and out thing. But it's a little bit different when we're talking RVs because there's so many different pieces and parts in there, right? I mean, it's not just an automobile, it is a home on wheels. And there are so many different brands and parts and years that, sometimes it takes time to get those parts in, right? To get things ordered. Can you just kind of speak to that a little bit? Just kind of,
that's
helping
great.
to set expectations a little bit?
Absolutely. So a technician here in the RV industry, automotive, motorsports, I won't say it's finite, but an RV technician is a plumber, a handyman, electrician. You're working with 110, you're working with DC, you're working with all different, aspects. You're putting in, windows, and you're fixing little things as cosmetics, So as far as the expectation of that repair, automotive, like you brought up, sometimes I bring my car in, I don't have the part in stock. The automotive industry might use maybe 100 SKUs to maintain their fleet of current models. Well, this industry, we might have 1,000 SKUs for that trailer because over the last 2-3 years, maybe some decor change, maybe floor layouts are a little bit different. So as much as we do in the Camping World family and the Gander RV, we try to have stuff in stock. This last year has been a little strange with supply chain delays. But we try to get as much as we can to get people back in that camping season. And it's what we try to say is if this doesn't prevent you from camping, let's get this part in here. Let's fix your safety issue. Let's fix your functionality. Some of the things that we get that crate in, if we order a panel because the ceiling had a little bit of maybe water damage, that panel has to be crated up from the manufacturer and sent to us because you can't just run to a Home Depot, perhaps, and get that motif and that decor. So
and they don't really have them in stock. They got to make them.
And they make them, exactly. So that's a great point. That door panel or those type of things. It's not like there's a stock of things sitting there. We order it, they might have to make it. That's a great point. So, we try to get you going as much as possible, get you back in camping season, and then we'll schedule back in the fall when you're done or more convenient for you once we have the part.
See, that's
Love it.
Managing the expectations. I always say that's the biggest key, managing the expectations. If you communicate and you ask questions and then there's never an issue. So, now here's one. Gracie, thank you for this one. My awning smells like mold. How do I wash it properly? What's the best way to do it, and how often?
Smells like cabbage and helicopter.
Cabbage and helicopter smoke when she walks in that RV.
The biggest thing, if you look at recommendations from the manufacturer and our maintenance schedule, is wash that every time you're done. 1 month there's recommendations, 3 months, 6 months, annually. There's certain things to that. So the awning, kind of like a tent or anything else, if you get back from camping on a nice day, don't leave it out when it's windy.
But
when you get a nice day, get under there with a scrub brush. You can use some mild detergents because we don't want to delaminate those colors and the things that match your, your trail and your decor. But the biggest thing is getting it aired out, and I don't really think you can overwash it. I mean, as long as we don't use anything abrasive, you mild detergents and some of the chemicals we have and the things we have, are incredible for those materials that we've got.
Right. And as long as you let it dry properly before
dry,
rolling it in.
Exactly.
Yeah. Here's another one just popped up from Marcus. How can I clean my black tank sensors?
There's a couple things there, and I love that question because a lot of people say, hey, my tank is full.
Yep.
Well, then you get in there, well, it's not full. The probes are in there, our density reading, where these issues are. The biggest thing about that is use the chemicals to keep them flushed. Flush it and drain it regularly. Don't come back and let it sit for 3 days. When you get back or even before you leave the campground, drain it. Now, the other thing a lot of people do when they maintain that and the chemicals that they use for that is using the proper toilet paper. Some people don't realize that there is a RV and marine biodegradable style. That's the biggest thing I can say.
Yep.
The other factor is if some people open up their wastegate and start flushing that out, well, that's just kind of running over some stuff sometimes. You might want to close that wastegate, get some capacity of fluid in there so that can stir up. Then you open your gate, flush it out. That's the biggest thing that I can recommend for most people. A lot of people don't realize it, especially when they're camping and they're hooked up to a sewer. They leave it open all the time. Well,
it's just drying it out.
Issue.
Yeah, that can be
You
an
get that
issue.
pyramiding effect.
The pyramiding
Effect's not a good thing.
Matt, what would you say that you've seen in your shop of some of the more common, I guess, maintenance things that get missed, right? The things that are, I guess, preventable maintenance that people often just may not think about.
Roof.
Okay.
Seals, the pliable parts, you don't really think about it. Like I said, out of sight, out of mind. I think those areas are going to be the big areas that people don't think about. But also the simple details of cleaning out your refrigerator when you're done.
Oh, yes.
The humidity factor of what these campers can bring in and getting your tanks drained and opening up and drying out your refrigerator, cleaning your AC vents so they don't freeze up, things like that. The moisture, you guys know, and the water is not your friend when you're in a camping season, at least interior-wise.
Yeah, and also if you don't understand how it works, ask your specialist about how the refrigerator and the ACs actually work because they might not work how you think they work, and it's good to know going in, like, for example, the LP electric fridges, they got that plate at the top. That's actually what's cooling things down. You block that, well, your fridge isn't going to be. And it's actually pulling hot air out and sucking cold air in. So, I mean, it's so unique how each one of the components on the RVs work. Or at least to me, it's like, oh, wow, that is really cool. It's because it's your home, but it's not residential. And it's like, wow, this is really cool. But knowing it can really help keep your RV going for a lot longer. Here's a good one from Bradley. Where can I find the maintenance schedule for my specific RV? Is there a place to go look for one?
That's a good one.
There are some things that Camping World family does with Gander. There's a handbook that you get that kind of gives general recommendations.
Okay.
There are a lot of manufacturers out there that will assist you at any given time. The packet that you get when you buy a camper, there are sometimes it's generic. I won't say generic. It's general to the layouts of what it could be. So sometimes people come in and they say, well, this manual isn't for mine. Well, it's a general packet for everything. So, the biggest thing is resources. If you don't have that in your owner's manual, just call your service team, call your salesman, your product specialist, and, we can request that too if you don't have the specific owner's manual.
Right on. Wow, I mean, so many questions are coming in.
What about cleaning, Matt? Is there any kind of recommended cleaners, or what do you recommend for some of the, like bigger fifth wheels and stuff like that? With laminated sidewalls. Can you just use any old cleaner, or is it something specific you would recommend?
The RV industry, the automotive washes, things that rinse and don't leave a residue behind, especially on some of the painted sticking tins, things like that. We actually just set up, I don't know if it's company-wide, but McGuire's had set up a whole bunch of stations for us, and our service department came in and used that.
Oh, cool.
And it is a biodegradable, solvent. I have some people swear by, some dish detergents for their wheels, things like that. But as far as the painted surface, things like that, I would recommend an auto wash or a specific RV wash.
Okay. Right on. And if you're using, is it true that if you have, like a fiberglass sided RV, try not to use a cleaner cleaner that has like citrus oil in it because of the streaks?
Yep. And then that's the biggest thing too with those streaks, things like that, is maintaining your roof, keeping that clean, so we don't have those streak downs. Because then you spend all the time washing it, your first rain, all of a sudden you have these black streaks.
Yes.
And all those types of things. But a nice, soft bristle brush. Make sure that brush is rinsed out and clean. And then as far as that, just getting it rinsed off well and keeping it maintained.
Right on. Okay. Well, we just talked about the ones to avoid. That's a great question, just came in. How often should I service my brakes? Is there a difference between the motorhome classes and travel trailer classes?
As far as brakes, recommended by the industry is annually. And wheel bearings, wheel bearing packs, inspect your tires every time you leave, air pressure, torque your wheels, every so often.
Right.
All those things play in the factor. But as far as the brakes, annual inspection is the recommendation. So I'm going to take that into frequency of how you use it. So I haven't used it for a year. I've been tied up. Sometimes sitting is worse than using it all the time.
Yes.
If I'm in the mountains versus in the desert versus in Michigan and it's been rainy for 3 months and I've just camped, through some heavier terrain, I might inspect those wheels and those brakes a little bit sooner.
Okay.
So kind of along those same lines, talk to me a little bit about tires, right? I know a lot of people, that's kind of one of their biggest fears, right, is having a blowout. What are you looking for when you're doing like a self-inspection of your tires?
You're looking at the wear patterns.
Okay.
You're looking also at the tread depth, condition of the tires. You want to make sure they're not dry rotted.
Right.
Things like that. We sell a lot of great products and to cover UV protection. Sometimes they're just wheel covers when they're sitting, or when you're camping, or if you're at a seasonal. As far as tire pressure, that's the biggest thing to maintain. When you get low tire pressure, it creates a lot of heat. Once that creates a lot of heat and a lot of fluctuation in that, then we have some issues there. Overinflating is also
that's a big issue.
is bad, as far as the bulging and the wear pattern on that too.
The age of a tire can play a factor as well, correct?
Yep. Industry standard, I believe we're at over 7 years is recommended.
Okay.
I know we don't sell any used ones over that point. We want to keep everybody safe and be able to, have a great camping experience.
If I'm going to store my RV, and let's say I don't have a storage facility, what are some tips and some things for me to think about to make sure I store it properly?
Well, winterizing it properly, getting everything cleaned up and set. Sounds silly, but making sure your windows are closed all the way, the vent caps are closed all the way.
Right.
That's a big one.
Whoops.
Yeah, and that happens. People kind of forget about it. Some of the covers that we've got, some people will take, if you don't have an indoor facility, but, some of the covers that the industry makes for these units. And the thing about covers too is you got to make sure that they're installed properly so they ventilate properly.
Right.
That they're tied down secure so you don't have abrasives on your finish if it is in a wind point. But really overall, the industry does really well with, creating a solid exterior, for these experiences. And the best thing I can say is prepping it ready for you and knowing the conditions that you're coming into. So here in Michigan, you might want to store it a little bit differently than say, in Kentucky.
Right.
During those off seasons.
Right.
Our winters are a little bit
Buffalo.
different.
Yeah,
That's right.
exactly. Here's a great one that just came in from Brandon. How long can I keep my RV in storage? Is it bad if I don't drive it for long periods of time?
Properly winterized and put into a storage factor. Charge your batteries, take them off, don't leave them hooked up. Get your terminals maybe lubricated so they're setting. If you store it for a long period of time, there's really no reason why you can't store these for years on end. But the thing is, I would still not ignore it. I would still go at least check it out, make sure critters didn't get in there, make sure something didn't happen on that point in time. But once it's winterized and you have it cleaned up, everything dry, your tank's maintained and sanitized, water heater drained, there's really no reason why you can't sit and have those go. But I would recommend maybe every 6 months, maybe take a visit to it just to make sure.
Yeah, because it's your investment. You want to make sure that
Very much so.
Here we go. Jace just put one in here too. Thank you guys once again for all the comments and the questions online. Are some batteries better than others? Do all RVs use the same types?
That's a great question. And no, there's a sealed battery. And then a lot of people think, well, this black battery that I've got or whatever brand you have, some of them are wet batteries. You have to maintain the fluid in it.
Yes.
Some of our cars, most of our cars are gel or AGM style battery. You plug it in your converter, it plugs, charges it up. If I don't use that battery for 6 months, it's good to put on some type of trickle charger. And if you're fortunate enough to be able to have property and have power to it all the time, it's going to always maintain that battery. But yeah, there's different styles of battery, and that's the biggest thing is do your research, contact your product specialist, your service department team on best way to maintain your battery.
Yeah, no, that's good, especially with lithium technology coming out too, right? It's a little bit different charge there too. You want to make sure you're.
That's a good point.
I have a charger at home, and there'll be options if it's a lithium battery.
Very specific.
Yes, very specific.
Yep.
So make sure you're using the right charger as well,
Yep.
and not assuming that everything's the same.
And if you're in cold temperatures too, the biggest thing, batteries won't freeze when they're charged. Most
Yep.
of the time.
Right.
If
Yep.
they go discharge, that's when you have battery problems. And then it might charge back up, you go on your trip, but you didn't realize it did freeze and it's a dead cell. And then, shoot, if you're out there and that battery is pretty important for all operations, of the camper itself.
Right on. So, Matt, are there any other tips you can add as we kind of close out today?
The biggest thing I can say to anybody is just know your camper, learn the characteristics. Make sure that you know that door, if that's open in the bathroom, when you close that slide out, that's probably going to pop that door.
Cabinets.
Cabinets, things like that,
Yeah.
Drawers, know the layout.
Unfortunately, I've seen it happen.
Oh, very much so.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, too, is you're sitting around the campfire having a good time with your friends and family, and you're putting a little glow on, and all of a sudden a little windstorm comes up, and you got to close it up right. Know that stuff. That way you're not missing it and causing yourself a little bit of a headache by just not being familiar with your unit.
Right on. Matt, thank you so
Awesome.
much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Hey, man, absolutely.
Thanks
It was an
for
honor.
Thanks, Ian.
Once again, one of our great people you're going to find when you come to a Camping World or a Gander location, just like Matt Rameur in Coldwater. So as we close out the day here with the Ultimate RV Show, hopefully you learned a couple of tips and tricks to help maintain that RV. But stick around because we got something else coming up. Hang on.